current international school in Beijing for 8 years now. I started in nursery, and that was followed by reception, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now I'm in year 7. For all of those years, except for this year, I was in the primary section of the school. 4 of those years were a mixture of online learning and face-to-face interaction. This is my first year of secondary, and I'm not yet sure if I like it more than primary. What I know for sure is that in secondary, you have more freedom, but also more responsibilities. When I was a 3-year-old student, all of my needs were taken care of. The food was brought to us, I was told when to nap, and even when to use the toilet. We had many breaks, and looking back, there was not much work at that age. But of course, I didn't know that. We weren't given much choice on anything. Even when we were eating, we didn't get to decide what we got to eat. Reception was a big year for me. I'd finished my first year at this school, and I finally thought I was starting to understand everything. We had a bit more freedom, like having access to small mini scissors and a bit more complex toys. We were still supervised all the time. We were given a more complicated education, and with that came a more complicated timetable. Year 1 again was another huge year for me. It was my first year out of early years. We had access to much more complex toys like Legos. We had advanced Chinese lessons, and that's when our maths went up in difficulty from counting and adding to multiplication and bar charts. We also started to form in plays. They were all fully prepared by a teacher. We still had to put effort into it. The only decision we had was the decision to make a fool of ourselves by not memorizing lines, or starve ourselves by getting enrolled. Year 2 was a big change. We started to get homework and write our own stories. We also started to join in lots of extracurricular activities, such as the eco committee. I started participating in choir, which was highly supervised. After we'd finished eating and lined up outside of the canteen, a teacher would come and take us to the choir room where we did our practice. It was fun, but we were still just doing what we were told to do. Then, halfway through the year, we got stuck at home doing online learning, so we missed out on many special things like the school sleepover. Year 3 and 4 were pretty normal years. Apart from acting in our first play in a week, we couldn't do anything special because of the pandemic. There was lots of online learning and fewer real interactions between peers. In year 5, we had our first residential trip, and we had a bit more freedom in our school life. We could occasionally go outside the classroom to focus on a specific activity, and we could go to choir practice by ourselves. And we started, slowly but surely, learning good time management skills. We had our class play again, but this time we did our own research and wrote our own script. Year 6 was my final year of primary. By now, we could leave the classroom to focus on some work. We almost completely made our plays. There was quite a big change in how the teachers looked at us. It was almost as if they knew we had to move to the big school and were getting us prepared for that big move. And of course they knew. And of course that everything they did was well prepared and well calculated. Year 7, my current year, is my first year of secondary. I have so much more work to do compared to primary. In secondary, we must bring our resources to lessons, walk to our lessons, remember what our next lesson is, write down our homework, and go to our lockers to organize our stuff. All this newfound freedom was great, but meant that any lateness or missed work was our own fault. So much more responsibility on our shoulders. In primary, we have to go everywhere in a line following the teacher. In secondary, we can walk to places by ourselves. In secondary, we get different teachers for every class we get different teachers for every lesson and different classrooms. We get separate homework at separate times and due at separate times. In secondary, you spend more time with other forms because you're not always with your own. In secondary, to join the secondary production, you must go to an audition. It requires talent and determination, hard work and perseverance. But at the same time, the whole experience is more fun and more rewarding. Primary and secondary life is different. Quite honestly, it's miles apart. In primary, we have everything prepared for us. We don't have the freedom to do what we want. In secondary, we have freedom. We can do what we want. We have to be organized and motivated to use the resource at hand. In primary, because we are so young, we can't be trusted too much. In secondary, we are trusted to make the right decision under the guidance of our teachers. Basically, primary is like getting a job in sales where you get £30 no matter how many sales you make. So if you make no sales, you get £30. Whereas if you make 100 sales, you still get £30. Secondary is like getting a job in sales where you get £10 for every sale. So if you make no sales, you get nothing. If you make 100 sales, you get £1,000. More money and more responsibility. You see, primary is like steady income, and secondary is commission-based.